Okay, I wanted to give just a little bit of insight as to what is happening in Utah with respect to new construction. Now, over the last few years, Utah has led the nation in terms of how many homes it's building. It's actually been building more homes than any other state in the nation when you factor in how many new homes are being built per 1,000 residents. But we have not kept up with the demand. We still have a lot more kids here in Utah than any other place in the nation, and it's such an incredibly beautiful place to live, and it has so many advantages that are drawing people in from all over the country and the world to make Utah their new home. And for these reasons, we do have to attack the problem with respect to affordable housing and make sure that new homes are being built, not only for those that are moving here that can afford the more expensive homes, but also new homes for families and children and grandchildren of the people that called Utah home for so many years. And the aggressive goal that has been laid out by the governor of the state of Utah is to build 35,000 starter homes in the next 5 years. So in this video, I'm going to give you my thoughts, my opinions around new construction and about what's happening in the state of Utah when it comes to new construction. But I'm hoping also that my background in new construction myself can really lay out a picture for you as to whether or not you want to consider buying a new home or perhaps maybe consider an existing home. Regardless of what you decide, I'm hoping that this information in this video is very valuable in terms of what's happening in Utah, not only in the new construction realm of the real estate market, but that absolutely affects the entire real estate market as well. Okay, to begin, let's start with where we came from. How did we get to where we are right now? Well, in the last couple or few years, increasing interest rates have made it increasingly difficult, not only for the average home buyer to go out and buy a home, but it's also become more difficult for developers to finance these projects, especially and specifically for starter homes, whether that be condos or townhomes or smaller single-family homes. And so this higher interest rate environment is really putting the brakes on the market as a whole, not only in Utah, but throughout the country. And it's this perfect storm that is holding us back from actually pushing forward and building more homes to offset that supply shortage that we really have, to then bring more homes to the market and make sure that more people can afford to get into these homes. And here in the state of Utah, the construction boom peaked in 2021 and 2022, where we saw more homes being built in Utah than ever before. And even though we saw building slow down in 2024 here in the state of Utah, we still built 6,000 to 8,000 too few homes just last year alone. And in order to hit that goal of 35,000 starter homes in the next 5 years, we've got to step up and build more homes. That means we've got to create an environment where these developers can do so. And overall in the state of Utah, if we look all the way back to the financial crash of 2008, we have underbuilt each and every year since 2008, except for 1 year, which was 2021. It's the only year that we actually built enough homes for that given year's demand. But over the course of nearly 2 full decades, we've built too few homes each and every year. And so where does that put us today? That puts us into a deeper deficit than we found ourselves before. Prior to 2024, we were 37,000 homes short of where we could be or should be to meet the current demand. And now we find ourselves in the mid 40,000s. We're about 45,000 homes short in Utah to meet the current demand, even in this high interest rate environment. And so as an economics major, the biggest problem with our market here is supply. We simply do not have and have not built enough homes to offset the demand. And as demand has increased more and more, as Utah has really thrived on the scene, and its coming out party started in 2002 when Salt Lake City was the host city for the Olympics. But ever since then, Utah has grown at an exponential rate, and we've yet to keep up. And so the result of all this growth is we just don't have enough homes here in Utah. We hope to see that change in the coming years, but the conversations that I'm having with more and more people, when I'm talking to people in my neighborhood or clients or anybody that I'm really engaged with, I hear more and more stories of people where their homes are set up as multi-generational living situations, where there are 2, sometimes 3 families living in a single home, basement apartments, ADUs, which stands for accessory dwelling units. Any opportunity to create create an environment where more people can live together is kind of the answer for so many people that just can't afford to go out and buy a home on their own. And in decades past, this used to be just a lower income demographic bracket problem, but now that problem has spread across all of the brackets. Everybody is being affected by the higher housing prices. And as locals tell me constantly, they don't want more people to move here. Their greatest fear as to why they don't want people to move here is not that they don't like other people from other places, nor is it, despite what some people might think, that they hate Californians, because honestly, almost everybody here is super welcoming, but their true fear is they don't want it to become unattainable for their own children and their own grandchildren to be able to afford to live in this beautiful state that we take so much pride in. And if we don't solve the problem, that's what's going to happen. We have to have solutions to our housing affordability crisis right now so that 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years from now, people can buy homes. And as I've said in so many of my videos, I truly believe that the housing affordability crisis is the greatest threat to Utah's future. If we don't create an environment where the young people can actually afford to live here, we will not see our economy grow. It will jeopardize everything we've worked so hard to build. In my opinion, the greatest state in the nation in terms of the overall economy and the opportunity and the quality of life and the outdoors and all of the things that Utah offers. Okay, so the goal here to solve the problem is to build 35,000 starter homes over the next 5 years. Now, that's a big and an aggressive goal, and it's about double what the market would normally produce on its own. So how are we going to double what the market is doing right now? Well, let's talk about that just a little bit next. And looking just a little bit further out into the future, which isn't far away, mind you, to 2030, the next 5 years, we need about 200,000 more homes than what we have today. And honestly, that's exactly what we're tracking towards in terms of the need that we have out in the future, just 5 years from now. And in my opinion, I believe that Utah will only continue to become more and more attractive to people moving here from all over the country as other problems and other issues are taking place in other communities and other states. Take, for example, what's happened in Southern California. So many people are choosing to leave because their state's just not run well. There's no other way to put it. And Utah is routinely one of the best run states in the nation. And we are actually solving problems when it comes to homeowners insurance and insuring these starter homes in these areas where we live in the West, where insurance can cost more money. The state of Utah is getting ahead of things so that we're not reacting to problems and disasters, but we're proactively seeking out answers to make sure that we're avoiding those catastrophes. And as Utah becomes discovered by far more people, I believe that most Utahns, in fact, almost all of them, are super welcoming. And we want to make sure that people do feel welcomed here. What we don't want to see is that our housing becomes so unattainable that nobody else can live here. Now, historically, Utah has seen a 70% homeownership rate. In other words, 70% of Utahns own the home where they live. And what we could fear if we don't start to tackle this problem right now is that that relationship or that ratio could switch. It could invert. We don't want to see Utah become a 30% ownership state. We want to maintain a high level of ownership because it affects all markets and the entire economy as a whole. We want to make sure that people can live out the American dream here in Utah better than anywhere else. So my question is, what are we doing about it? Well, in 2024, during the legislative session, some bills were passed to get the ball rolling and to make sure that we can build more homes. And this comes in the way of two different fronts. We have the home ownership front over here, and over here we have the development front. And believe it or not, the biggest hindrance as to why we are not building enough starter homes has more to do with developers and financing developments, as well as the municipalities where we'd like to build those developments pushing back. In other words, the NIMBY mentality, the not in my backyard mentality. And this mentality just is not realistic moving forward. The days of building seas of subdivisions with quarter-acre or third-acre lots here in the Salt Lake City metropolitan area, those days are gone. It's a luxury to have that big of a piece of property. We do need better answers, more comprehensive answers as to how we can build so that we can house the people that have the current demand right now and to supply the demand of housing that are absolutely going to be needed here in the near future. And I truly believe that if if we solve the starter home problem, because the starter home problem is one that I see as a monumental reason as to why housing has become less and less affordable across the country, but especially here in Utah. In the 1970s, we saw in the nation over 600 or 700,000 starter homes being built each year. And now just last year in the entire country, we only saw 53,000 starter homes being built. And by definition, that particular metric that we're talking about is a home that's smaller than 1,500 square feet. And so my next question that comes to mind is, why is that the case? Why have we drastically cut the number of starter homes that we're building? And it really boils down to one thing, and that is the builders and the developers simply aren't incentivized to do so. They make more profit when they purchase a chunk of land and build luxury homes or homes that they can sell. And because there's so much demand for those homes as well, it's fueling the demand for more of those homes, and developers make more money. And of course, they're going to build what they can make the most money doing. So ultimately, I do believe that we need to incentivize developers and builders to build responsibly a really high number of not only condos and townhomes, but also single family homes that are attainable for first-time homebuyers. And here in the state of Utah, I see that as single family homes that are priced under $500,000. If we have enough homes that are being built today that are priced at $450,000 or $500,000, we can see more people make that jump and get into homeownership. And honestly, just saying that out loud, where $500,000 is a starter home, hits me as though it's kind of crazy, but that's honestly where we are. And I honestly don't see house prices coming down anytime soon or at all. And so really what we can hope for is that appreciation doesn't explode like it did during the pandemic, so that in the future, more people can afford to get into a house. And look, it's my absolute belief that Utah will only continue to become more popular as more people move here. It's going to increase the demand and not lower it. We've got to get ahead of that supply-demand curve that we've fallen so short in with every year since 2008 other than one. We have to make sure that we start building these homes at the rate that we need to, so that housing becomes more affordable for those that need it most. And with this game plan that's been laid out to build all these homes, I see Utah leading the nation in years to come when it comes to how many homes we're building per 1,000 residents. Yet again, Utah has ranked as the #1 state in the nation, with Idaho closely behind, and other states like Florida and Texas right behind us as well. But I see Utah leading the nation for many years in terms of overall new construction per 1,000 residents. And if you're a local to Utah and you hate seeing this development and you hate seeing the growth, well, the only thing I can say is it's going to happen. There are more and more people moving here each day. And overall, when you look at the big perspective, we are a lower population state. We've only got 3.5 million people that live here, whereas in other states, neighboring states, including Arizona and California, and of course, Texas, the big states, we have a much smaller population. And this place is becoming more and more attractive to people that are moving here from all over, including and especially California. And I also believe that it should be our government's job to make sure that it doesn't manipulate the market too much, that it's actually their job to create the environment that will allow the natural market forces to take place, so that the builders and developers are actually incentivized to build more of these types of units. In other words, if the government has a soft, light-handed touch on the markets rather than completely overtaking the markets and manipulating the markets, we can actually see a nice balance stricken between government as well as the natural market to make sure that we create enough homes in the right price points to accommodate the market demand. And in my opinion, this means, of course, we're going to have some higher density housing units. I remember going back 20 years that when Daybreak first started up, the neighborhood where I currently reside and have lived for the last 10 years was looked down upon because it was so much denser in terms of the neighborhoods surrounding Daybreak were bigger lots, bigger homes, and Daybreak was being built in a much different way where it was tighter together. And I remember the pushback, and I remember how many people, myself included, that would never work here. People are not going to want that. And now that I've lived there for 10 years, I see the value in it. There's so much value in different types of subdivisions and different types of communities based on each individual's needs and their lifestyles. And so it's completely different depending on who you are, but we are going to need more communities like that where we can take advantage of building more units for more people that can continue to provide more housing opportunities, especially for the starter homes. Okay, so what is the overarching theme here? It's let's build, or as some people would say, build baby build. Building in Utah is just beginning. It's going to continue for the decades to come, and Utah's growth is going to lead the nation in the coming years, just as it has in the last decade and a half. In Utah leading the nation in terms of overall population growth since 2010, it's going to continue in the coming decades as well. And to me, what this means is if we're building homes at this level, we want to make sure that we do so responsibly and we're not doing it at the expense of the current residents. We don't want to be detrimental with the quality of life here. We want to make sure that we build responsibly and in such a way that we can accommodate all needs of all demographics and brackets across the economy. And I do believe that we can do all these things and so much more. So if you're considering moving to Utah or moving within the state and you're considering new construction, reach out to us. My team and I would love to be your real estate resource of choice. And if you'd like to book a video call with us, you can hit that link in the pinned comment on this and every video. And if you're looking to learn more about new construction and new development happening in Utah, check out this playlist next. And until the next video, thanks.